Presence, and let's do this first one with eye contact.
There are new ways of communicating, new ways of transferring knowledge.
Is the wire showing through?
But the brotherhood is the same brotherhood that was founded on Solomon's temple.
Okay, so we're rolling. This is 2, anytime.
The temple in the heart of man is an unfinished temple. We are building it every day. We build it as we grow in moral insight and in strength of character. We build it as we broaden our sympathy and understanding to include men of every race and creed. We build it as we carry the inspirations from this hour of fellowship into the tasks of our everyday world.
Truth and justice, liberty and enlightenment, fraternity and philanthropy. For Scottish Rite Freemasons, these are the living ideas and ideals that stand the test of time and are always inspiring good men to become better men.
People are still asking the same questions they've been asking about who am I and what's my role in the world and what's my purpose in life.
There is a willingness on the part of the Scottish Rite to say these are ancient, timeless concepts of truth and liberty and battling in the face of adversity. But we're willing to show you how more modern man has applied those concepts.
And that's the amazing thing about Freemasonry and about the Scottish Rite as part of Freemasonry is these continuities, these strings of teachings that don't change, and at the same time the fact that the fraternity is constantly adapting itself to the society around it.
In 2003, the late Lee Sherman Dreyfus, former governor of Wisconsin and himself a Scottish Rite Mason, spoke of how the ideals of Freemasonry inspire the best in men, whatever the period, whatever the challenge.
There have been 6, in my opinion, 6 great true revolutions in the 17th and 18th century. What do I mean by a great and true revolution? A revolution that was not aimed at taking power. It was a revolution aimed at giving power to the people. And there were only 6 of those. One was obviously here in America. One was in France. One was in Italy. One was in Hungary. One was in South America. And one was in Mexico. Now, who were the leaders of those 6 great revolutions that brought power to the common people? Obviously, George Washington in this one. And in France, it was Danton. In Italy, it was Garibaldi. And in South America, it was Simón Bolívar. Mexico, Benito Juarez. And in Hungary, Kossuth. All of those men, Freemasons, all of them. Is that just chance? Is that just the luck of the dice? I don't think so. I look at World War II, and for those of you as our guests tonight, who are the names you associate with bringing about the successful conclusion of that war? You've got to start with Churchill and Roosevelt, no question about those two, and followed by Harry Truman, and certainly General Marshall and the Truman or Marshall Plan that followed after the war that preserved that peace. And you've got to look at Douglas MacArthur out in the Pacific and what he did in laying a constitution and creating a democracy in Japan from a nation that had been a warrior nation. Now, am I to tell you that most of those men are Masons? No. All of those men were Freemasons. But I think this current century, the one that I'm going to miss, is very promising because there's a possibility of a quantum leap to build the world's royal arch that'll cover all of the peoples, all of the religions, all of the races of this world, to understand that we are all brothers and sisters and that we are under one fatherhood. It is possible a world of no war, of religious tolerance, of racial tolerance, with food, shelter, and security for everybody in the world, and a brotherhood of mankind. So for those of you now who are my brothers in this hall, I tell you, this is no time for any of you, regardless of your age, to say it is high 12 and there is no work before us. He has put a good deal of work on that trestle board. And let us get to our labors and finish building the temple. There's an incredible opportunity.
Scottish Rite Freemasons of the Northern Jurisdiction are committed to improving the futures of both children and adults. In 1934, the Scottish Rite established the Benevolent Foundation for funding research to find a cure for schizophrenia, the debilitating mental illness that often strikes people in their youth. Through their efforts, Scottish Rite Masons continue to bring hope to all who suffer from the devastating effects of schizophrenia. In 1932, Leon M. Abbott started a fund that now provides hundreds of scholarships to the children and grandchildren of Scottish Rite Masons, as well as to members of the fraternity's youth groups.
Well, the Scottish Rite Masons helping me out is exactly what I want to do when I'm older. You know, I want to emulate that. I like to be able to give to people that are up and coming and, you know, need a little financial aid like I did, you know, like my parents do.
In September of 1994, Scottish Rite Masons adopted as a major philanthropy learning centers for children with dyslexia.
Now who wants to read next? Stephanie.
So it went on.
These children have the ability and desire to learn, but they often find that reading, writing, and spelling are painful and demoralizing.
He had low self-esteem. He hated school. Just his attitude was horrendous. It's like somebody just took the worst part of my life, the biggest problem I've ever had in my whole entire life, and washed it away. I have my son back.
In the 1970s, to commemorate our nation's bicentennial, Scottish Rite Masons built the National Heritage Museum in Lexington, Massachusetts. Its cornerstone exhibit is Sowing the Seeds of Liberty, which tells the stories of ordinary people who played extraordinary roles in the American colonists' resistance to British rule.
Being able to partake in an exhibit like this strengthens one's belief in the very basic freedoms that we do have in this country.
In addition to its lively exhibits about our country's history and culture, the museum also houses an important library of Masonic documents and a fascinating collection of fraternal artifacts.
The National Heritage Museum offers a wonderful opportunity for the general public to come to see and understand and appreciate the wonderful art and culture and history of American Masonry.
The National Heritage Museum puts into action many of the Scottish Rite's values: love of country, improvement of the mind, and above all, the desire to inspire its visitors with stories of our nation's past and present. Members of the Scottish Rite understand that stewardship is a process, and often a lengthy one. Their commitment is not just to the next generation, but to all who succeed us. Ten years ago, Liza was having trouble in school. Liza was dyslexic. She had a learning disorder that affects as many as 1 out of 5 children.
In like 3rd grade, I think it would take me like hours to do all of my homework. And then I would have to have her sign notes saying that I didn't have enough time to finish everything. So it was difficult. I would always have to go the extra mile with my schoolwork.
It's very hard for anyone without dyslexia to understand how difficult it can be. The process of reading is complex. A lot can go wrong. A dyslexic child has difficulty with the process of decoding words. Imagine, for example, if you had to decode a sentence that looked like this. Liza's parents heard about a new dyslexia treatment program in their city, the Scottish Rite Learning Center.
Yeah, I remember those. When I used to go there, we used to get a big sand tray out and then draw each letter and then say how it sounds when you would be saying it, and that would just enforce how you're supposed to say it.
In 1994, the first learning center opened in Massachusetts. Now, centers are open in the 15 states of the northern jurisdiction. There, children with dyslexia receive tutoring for free. More than 5,000 children have passed through the learning centers. Every day, their lives are changing for the better.
Is a mystery.
I didn't envision her going to Chicago when she was 10. I didn't think that would ever happen. She really has confidence.
At DePaul University, I am a business major. Right now, I think I'm going to do a major in marketing and a concentration in sales and leadership.
It's just amazing that thousands of children are being taught at no charge. This is mind-boggling to many people when they hear that Scottish Rite is funding this training for children without any expense at all to the parents. In my 50 years in this field, I know of no one else who has ever offered free tutoring for children. It's amazing.
The Learning Centers program is accredited by the premier organization in the field of dyslexia education, the International Multisensory Learning Education Council.
I think that the Scottish Rite program is absolutely superb.
I am so grateful of the Learning Center and the opportunity that Liza had.
So each day is like a new journey, and using my knowledge and the things that I've learned, I think is the best way to thank them.
It is stories like Liza's, multiplied thousands of times, that keep Scottish Rite Masons so committed to the learning centers.
I knew I liked riding motorcycles, and I said, well, why don't we start a motorcycle club whose sole purpose is to raise funds to help children?
For me, it's a sense of pride. It's a sense of satisfaction. The children, I mean, that's our whole goal, the children.
A fundamental tenet of the Scottish Rite is education. Masons think a lot about light. I spent most of my career studying the science of light. Light is synonymous with knowledge. We're promoting knowledge, and this enables children at a very early age to mature, blossom, and be productive.